Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Acting President. This evening, I want to talk about a manifest abuse of the privileges we have in this place by a senator, so that she could besmirch the personal reputation of a senior statutory office holder by smear and innuendo of the worst kind, without a single shred of evidence. Last evening, as the adjournment debate drew to a close, Senator Rhiannon of the Australian Greens delivered a speech that unfolded as a personal attack on a senior Australian public servant who holds an important statutory office. In delivering her smear, she cleverly tried to avoid direct accusation, preferring the coward's way of attacking by imputation. This attack on the Director of Fair Work Building and Construction, Mr Nigel Hatchkis, occurred in the context of a long-running CFMEU smear campaign against him. This campaign is part of a broader smear campaign being spearheaded by the union's National Secretary, Dave Noonan, who has a record of smearing and victimising anyone brave enough to speak out about the behaviour of his union. The CFMEU's agents of influence in this place have repeatedly tried to attack this public servant. Following the estimates in October last year, the CFMEU's former employee, Senator Wong, asked a question on notice relating to Mr Hatchkis' career and his achievements. This question asked for a range of details about his background, including details of all 15 commendations
thank
received
you, Senator
by
Sullivan. Senator Wright, I'm sorry I didn't notice you standing there. My apologies.
This is an attack on a fellow senator. I just wanted to ask whether the courtesy of having told the senator that this was going to occur, which I understand is the normal courtesy, had occurred.
It's a courtesy, you're correct, Senator Rice, but it's not a point of order. Thank you. Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan.
Deputy President. The insinuation of the work by Senator Wong is related that these commendations were somehow not genuine. Not surprisingly, all of the 15 of these commendations were exactly as they appeared. At Senator estimates last week, the CFMEU's most faithful advocate, Senator Cameron, again attempted to smear Mr Hatchkis. This time, Senator Cameron made the absurd allegation that Mr Hatchkis was compromised by receiving a cup of tea from building companies. A totally pathetic assertion.
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Yes.
I raise a similar point that's been raised in the past. There is a custom and practice in this chamber that if you are to besmirch the reputation of another senator, you at least provide the courtesy. You provide the courtesy of informing the senator so that they may well want to be here to hear these remarks and may well refute them. I take it, given the senator has not actually said that he has actually contacted the senator, that in fact the opposite is the case.
Thank you, Senator Carr. As I said to Senator Rice, it is a courtesy of the Senate to advise senators if they are going to be speaking about them, but it is not a point of order. Thank you.
Dave Noonan and the CF.
Senator O'Sullivan, please wait for the call. Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan.
But as Dave Noonan and the CFMEU's desperation has increased, so too has the level of smears. Last night, the CFMEU's desperation reached new level when it sent the Green Senator Rhiannon to use privilege to again attack a distinguished statutory officer holder, bizarrely accusing him of somehow being complicit in murder and torture in Northern Ireland. Senator Rhiannon based her whole tissue of smear on the fact that Mr Hatchkis—
Senator O'Sullivan. Yes, Senator Rhiannon.
A point of order. Accuracy is needed. I in no way accused anybody of murder, and I actually set that out in the speech.
I believe that's a debating point, Senator Rhiannon. Thank you. Senator O'Sullivan.
So the basis of this tissue of smear had to do with at one time Mr Hatchkis visited the Royal Ulster Constabulary in Northern Ireland as a member of Australia's premier National Crime Authority. So then she went on to provide the Senate with a colourful and selective history of the former Royal Ulster Constabulary. At this point, it is worth recounting the record of CFME smears led by its chief smear merchant, National Secretary Dave Noonan. Mr Noonan is well known for his regular visits to Parliament House, so we should not be surprised that Senator Rhiannon has now been activated as part of his union smear campaign. The CFMEU's corrupt and criminal activities were exposed at various points last year in the Hayden Royal Commission. Each time this evidence was met with smears and retribution from Dave Noonan. This prompted counsel assisting the Royal Commission to conclude that there had been, I quote, the CFMEU's slur campaign against witnesses who were willing to give evidence against them. This slur campaign was extensive and shameful. When Boral CEO Mike Cain blew the whistle on the CFMEU blackmail and secondary boycotts, Dave Noonan personally attacked Cain as the CEO of a multinational company. When CFMEU official Luke Collier had intimidated and threatened FWBC inspectors and Bar and Guru, including calling a female inspector a effing slut, Dave Noonan excused this behaviour by saying swearing on building sites is nothing new. Last November, brave whistleblowers in the New South Wales branch of the CFMEU came forward on ABC to reveal the union's involvement in, and I quote, corruption, association with murderers, association with gangsters, associations with terrorists, money being paid to union officials intimidating other union officials being forced out of their jobs and their careers. So what was Dave Noonan's response to that? He issued a press release smearing the whistleblowers as a faction within the New South Wales branch of the CFMEU that is attempting to destabilise the current leadership. And when Assistant Commissioner of Victoria Police, Stephen Fontana, implicated senior CFMEU officials in direct links to organised crime, counsel for the CFMEU tried to smear the Assistant Commissioner by asserting that he was engaged in cultural warfare and outrageously claimed that, in fact, Victoria Police were a part of the problem. So it was no surprise that Dave Noonan's union would attempt to use a compliance senator in the parliament to again engage in a smear campaign against those who reveal the ugly truth about this corrupt union. What was notable about Senator Rhiannon's speech last night was not just its sheer desperation and Noonan-inspired level of spite and rage, it was its absolute utter hypocrisy. I urge Mr Hadkis to provide details of his past. Let me say that again, this time more slowly so that the irony is not lost. I urge Mr Hadkis to provide details of his past. If Senator Rhiannon is now demanding of others that they explain their past, then she is certainly inviting reflection on her own past, and what an interesting past it is. Senator Rhiannon, as we know, was a long-standing member of the Communist Party of Australia and its Moscow-aligned successors. When her heroes and mentors in the Soviet Union were running a police state that engaged in arbitrary arrests, mass torture, ran concentration camps, conducted unilateral invasions of sovereign states and oversaw all manner of human rights
Senator
abuses.
O'Sullivan. Senator Milne.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I draw your attention to the standing orders where senators are not permitted to reflect upon the intent or character of other senators.
Thank you, Senator Milne. My understanding is it's custom and practice and not part of the formal standing orders. A number of other senators have raised the point as well. Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. Lee Brown, as Senator Rhiannon was not only a fellow traveller but a proud, passionate pro-Soviet communist. So tonight I make exactly the same demand of Senator Rhiannon as she made of Hadkis, in exactly the same terms. I urge Senator Rhiannon to provide details about her past. Of course, I'm not the first person to ask this of Senator Rhiannon. She has many questions still to answer. As a former ASIO intelligence officer said, quoted in a story entitled Secret Past of Greens Senator Lee Rhiannon in The Australian on the 28th of January 2012, and I quote, because of Lee's parents' political disposition, the Soviets were starting to groom Lee as a future, fully-fledged recruit and getting in as early as possible so that they could maximise the degree to which they could define her cover and career. And maximise they did. This same report also quotes covering communist Mark Aarons, a former associate of the Brown family, who wrote that, in 1977, Rhiannon led an SPA delegation to Moscow.
Excuse me, Senator O'Sullivan. Are you quoting? Because you know the custom is to refer to Senator Rhiannon by her full title. I apologise if you said you were quoting, but I didn't hear that. Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Can you just make that plain?
I will. A delegation to Moscow at the invitation of Leonid Brezhnev's neo-Stalinist regime. And further, Rhiannon, and I quote, Rhiannon edited the pro-Soviet and Soviet-supported monthly magazine Survey, founded by her father, from his retirement in 1988 until it ceased publication, staying at the helm even after the fall of the Berlin Wall. On her visit to Moscow, Senator Rhiannon also studied at the International Lenin School in Moscow. However, she has never divulged exactly what it was she studied or what other activities she engaged in whilst in Moscow, so I invite her to provide those details of her past. Senator Rhiannon has never explained what arrangements she had with Moscow as an agent of influence, nor has she ever explained what she received in return. As Mr Ahrens also said of Senator Rhiannon in 2010, and I quote, "I could not conceive of someone of my age and experience supporting Moscow's politics. Yet that is what Lee Brown, as she once was, did. Even communists with conscience, such as Mr Ahrens, have denounced Senator Rhiannon's lack of conscience in supporting the Soviet Union. Last night, Senator Rhiannon delivered an appalling smear on Mr Hotchkiss on behalf of the CFMEU. She asserted that because Mr Hotchkiss visited Northern Ireland at a time when certain violent acts were taking place, that he was somehow implicated in the acts. Senator Rhiannon herself stated that, and I quote, "There is no suggestion that Hotchkiss was involved in crimes committed by the RUC. Of course there isn't. But that did not stop her from claiming that he is somehow implicated in anything that the RUC might have done." Just a few lines later in her speech, after detailing some particular incidents that occurred in Northern Ireland, she reverses this position and says, and I quote again, "Hotchkiss cannot use the excuse that the crimes perpetrated by the RUC were not known when he visited." This is the lowest form of smear, where no evidence exists, simply asserting guilty by association, no matter how ludicrous the claim, in the hope that some mud might stick. As Senator Rhiannon's hero Vladimir Ilyich Lenin once said, "A lie told often enough becomes the truth."
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. The time for your contribution has expired. Senator O'Neill.